Bases dropping Soccer's morning show. I fix my headroom. It's if it's not one thing, it's another. But the thing is, when you fix your headroom, then I've got to really reach for the keyboard. 15 minutes to go in Old Firm. Rangers leading Celtic by the score of 2-1. And when Jared hops on, hopefully at some point this morning, leaving the analysis to him this morning when it comes to Old Firm. So we'll catch up with Old Firm and the possible effects. Rangers leading Celtic by the score of 2-1 as we are halfway through the 76th. There's going to be a couple of minutes, obviously, added on after that. But happy 2023 and happy New Year, Knicks, and happy New Year to everyone. Hopefully it wasn't too loud for you. If let me phrase it this way. If you meant your New Year's Eve and New Year's Day to be loud and boisterous, I hope that's what it was. I hope that you were safe. I hope others around you were safe. If it was meant to be quiet and reserved, I hope it was that way as well. When you have a new-ish puppy or dog, the rowdy man is 5, but when he's new and you're still trying to figure out what's going on, you're making sure that you're home early and you're making sure that everything is laid out there when it comes to making sure that the noises aren't loud. But, of course, if you are a fan of the University of Georgia and not the Ohio State University, then midnight came and a field goal was missed and you made it to the CFP championship. So may your New Year's Eve have been what you wished for it to be. And Happy New Year to all of you. And this morning, got a couple of things, obviously, to talk about, but and it's great to see Jillian on the Old Firm coverage for CBS Sports. Very, very cool stuff, Nix. Yeah, no doubt about it. And this morning, obviously, since it's our first show of 2023, the overarching thing that I wanted to have on the table this morning is New Year's resolutions. And they could be both personal or soccer related. So what I wanted to do was ask, good morning, Sharif. I wanted to ask what you guys had for New Year's resolutions and what they are. And, are they more adventurous than they've been in the past? Or are they kind of the way that you always lay out your New Year's resolutions? I want to lose 10 pounds. I want to get in better shape. I want to eat better, those kinds of things. But I want to know what your New Year's resolutions are, and it can be both personal and or soccer related. So that's what the thought pattern is for that this morning. And like I said, we'll have the entire time to discuss it, and probably maybe a couple days this week. It might be just the underlying theme of the week, New Year's resolutions, when it comes to the sport that we all talk about with all of you guys every single morning. But no, thanks for hanging out with us. And opening kickoff, let's see. Do we want to do opening kickoff that way? I think we do, actually. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And let me get the QR code up this morning, and not in the banner section. I know I'm going to figure this out sooner or later. So there it is. There's your QR code. Once again, live for those watching on Twitch. It is blocking out my face. And I know a lot of folks will sit there and say that that's an improvement. You got to keep it up there the whole time, John. So there you go. Kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code for those of you watching on Twitch. Kickoff Coffee CO on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. And what I wanted to do this morning is take a peek at what happened with Vinicius Jr. And Vinicius Jr., he's not really a happy dude right now, and understandably so. From our friends at BN Sports, and it was, Vinicius Jr. went on social media after video came out where he had items thrown at him from the stands after he was substituted late on in a match at the end of the calendar year. Verbal abuse emerged from Saturday's match. Real Madrid sealed a 2-0 win in their first league game, Karim Benzema scoring both, and they'll give the agent for Karim Benzema more fuel for his fire to sit there and discuss how Benzema was not a part of the national team for the world competition. And Vinicius posted a picture of himself with Benzema, and Vinicius adds on social media after the match was over. Racists continue to go to stadiums and watch the biggest club in the world up close. La Liga continues to do nothing. I will continue with my head held high, celebrating my victories and those of Madrid. In the end, it's my fault, in quotation marks. That's courtesy of our friends at BN Sports. And Javier Tebas, courtesy of our friends at Reuters. They clashed on social media with Vinicius. He clashed on social media with Vinicius after La Liga's stance on dealing with racism. Once again, when Vinicius accuses La Liga of continuing to do nothing about racist fans at matches after videos on social media, La Liga issued a statement condemning all forms of hate speech, saying it was following up on instances of racism at the match. And so Vinicius wrote what he wrote on Twitter. Tebas responds to the tweet and criticizes him. In La Liga, we've been fighting against racism for years, according to Javier Tebas. It is unfortunate, unfair, and not true to publish that La Liga doesn't do anything against racism. Inform yourself better. We are at your disposal so that altogether we can go in the same direction. Tebas also shared an official statement Saturday where the league said it was looking into Friday's match. The statement said, quote, La Liga has detected racist insults from the stands of the Zaria Stadium published on social networks. These facts will be reported to the Anti-Violence Commission, and the Public Prosecutor's Office for Hate Crimes has been done on other occasions. The league detailed, once again, this is from Reuters, how it had addressed incidents of racist abuse toward players in the past, said it will continue to fight against the scourge of violence, racism, xenophobia, and intolerance in sport, end quote. Valladolid came out with their own statement condemning any form of racism, regrets what happened very much. Club is, of course, ready to collaborate with La Liga to carry out the relevant investigations and reserves the right to take disciplinary measures in case there are season ticket holders involved in the incidents. There isn't a place for racism in football and society, and so Real Valladolid is determined to implement more and more measures which allow us to raise awareness, avoid, and combat any similar episodes, end quote. In September, Atletico Madrid fans were filmed directing racist chants at Vinicius Jr. outside the Wanda Metropolitano after their match with Madrid. And also keep an eye on the A-League. And let me see if I can find the details on that really quickly. And I want to say it was Jonathan Tannenwald who had the info up this morning just to kind of keep an eye on what's going on. From Marissa Lordanich et al., had Joey Lynch had it confirmed by a Melbourne Victory spokesperson that today's sanctions from Football Australia do not cover attendance at A-League women's fixtures. However, further crowd trouble at either men's or women's games could result in the ALW side also seeing restrictions imposed. Friday's matches open strictly to Melbourne Victory members. Any non-member tickets purchased will be refunded. So Melbourne Victory, Perth Glory, and the Women's League, we'll keep an eye on that too. So, well, once again, it's sad that we have to continue to talk about these kinds of things, but I think we have to continue to talk about these kinds of things because if it's not in the open, then folks will dismiss it. So just keep an eye on things in Spain and in Australia, and we will go from there. So, the Melbourne City keeper got let off for throwing the flare. So, Bam, keep an eye on what's going on down there with the new set of matches coming up later this week. 5 minutes to go. Rangers still leading Celtic by the score of 2-1. So this morning, now that we can say hi to Ropes and Ricky and Niall and Bam, once again, here's the underlying theme this morning: New Year's resolutions. What's your New Year's resolution? Like I said, it can be, and what you divulge can be either normal or it can be positioned, in soccer. Do you have soccer resolutions for your New Year? Do you have actual New Year's resolutions dealing with you as a person? So New Year's resolutions, we'll share them with one another. Mine, it's kind of standard. I could probably lose 10 pounds. I get in better shape, eat a little better, those kinds of things. So for me, it's pretty stock. And I think I've lost 10 pounds already toward the end of the year. So maybe if I lose another 10, the 10 pounds that the camera claims that it adds will only look like it's adding 10 pounds instead of 20. So that's kind of that's what I'm looking at this morning. News out of Atlanta United, and I wanted to get into that this morning and discuss from our friend Cesar Luis Merlo. And it is official that Alan Franco to Sao Paulo. It's officially done before the turn of the year. And Sao Paulo has bought 80% of the pass from Alan Franco from Atlanta United. And according to Cesar Luis Merlo, continue to cross documents, and once the transfer is signed, it'll be time for the announcement. The contract at Sao Paulo is for 4 years. So Alan Franco, no worries, Ricky. We're on the same page. It's that we're locked in here on the show. We're all locked into each other. So, no, so with Alan Franco, we're waiting. But, once again, you're kind of looking at things when it came to center back. And obviously, Air Force One has endeared himself into what's going on. Happy New Year, D. Graham. And if you're looking to sign Miles Robinson to a new contract, it's going to have to be on improved terms. And so you couldn't keep Franco and Miles on a new deal and Juanjo Purata. And obviously the confidence that the staff has in Noah Cobb will continue. And we've talked about in the past when we were discussing Alan Franco, the idea of bringing in an experienced center back, 2-2 in the 88th minute. Well done, Nix. Thanks for the heads up there. Looking at the replay, short angle, top of the 6, slam dunk. Okay, so 2-2 in the 88th. So you're looking at the confidence that they have in younger players. And it seems like center back U, otherwise known as Atlanta United, is going to have Noah Cobb continue to grow and evolve. And I know that there was a concern about Noah getting starting time. Might happen occasionally. It may be in AmFam 2. We might see what's going on with Noah Cobb like we did in AmFam 1 in the last 45 minutes. I'm not anticipating Noah Cobb starting out of the blocks. I am, however, anticipating the experienced center back that is available to come in and be a part of the discussion to be paired with Juanjo Purata before Miles gets to 100%. So we'll keep an eye on that. Yeah, and Emilio, yeah, you ain't kidding. Pope Benedict working from above. Also, a New Year's resolution from Bam: get more comfortable at the sound of my voice when I'm on football podcasts. Okay, so Bam, I'll say this. I don't like to hear the sound of my own voice either. And I've done these, I've been in media for, let's do math, a little over 30 years, 35, say. Got a young start. I'm 12. But one of the things that I have never really gotten adjusted to is the sound of my own voice. So my advice is this: be yourself first and foremost. Just be yourself and be comfortable with who you are when it comes to your presentation. If we always sound weird to ourselves. So that's always part of this. We always sound weird to ourselves. Don't get too wrapped up in hearing yourself too much, if that makes any sense. Kind of listen through yourself to what you're doing and what you're saying. When you're talking about LAFC, when you're talking about all those other things, listen through your voice to hear what you're saying, if that makes any sense. So don't worry about how you sound. There's a lot of folks out there who don't like the sound of their own voice. I'm one of them. I don't like the sound of my voice. Listen through yourself. Just be comfortable with who you are in your presentation. Do that. Be comfortable with who you are. Be comfortable with your presentation. Be well-informed, journalistic, whatever. Listen through yourself. Be yourself, listen through yourself, and then that way it's all good. Tell you what we'll do. When we get into the regular season, if you're awake, Bam, what we'll do is when there's like an El Trafico or something, we'll bring you on. We'll bring you on the show, and we can talk El Trafico for a little bit. We'll talk about LAFC, maybe even before the season starts, something like that. We'll bring you on so you can become more just, accustomed, adjusted, comfortable, whatever. So how about that? We'll set a deal. We'll talk LAFC. You can do it. We'll come on the show, and because of the time difference, we'll do it. Well, or we'll be doing it on a Friday. Might do it on a match day Friday or something like that. So remind me of this conversation as we get into the season, get close to the season. You'll come on to talk LAFC from your perspective. We'll promote your podcast. But this way, just get you comfortable with reps and getting comfortable with yourself and your presentation. So don't listen to yourself, listen through yourself. That's the first advice I'll give you. So that's the New Year's resolution. Trying to work out who LAFC are getting rid of now that you have Steve Buke. Yes, no doubt. Knicks this morning, Tommy Scoops with one of his first scoops of the window. Ashley Westwood to Charlotte, according to Tom Bogert. And apparently that is a done deal. So yet another experience, not quite as many years on the back line as Christian Fuchs. So Ashley Westwood to Charlotte. So we'll keep an eye on that. 7 minutes added for Rangers and Celtic. And we're 2.5 in. So 4.5 to go in added. So good. I'm glad, Nick, that you'll come on whenever LAFC and Atlanta United are going to be playing each other. So that Friday before, out of the blocks, we'll have you on to talk LAFC. And like I said, before the season starts, maybe we'll have you on too, just to kind of give your thoughts on LAFC, and we can banter about the Western Conference at the same time. So, just listen through yourself. Don't listen to yourself, because I have to do that a lot. It's like I kind of set myself aside. I listen to myself once, put it to the side, and keep going. But Alan Franco, I think that there's confidence in Noah Cobb, confidence in what's being developed, but just know that there's probably a pretty sure bet that there's going to be an experienced center back coming in, and we've talked about all of the competitions this year, all the different competitions this year, how you're going to get close to playing 50 matches if you max out. And you're going to need not just backups per se. It's going to be 1As and 1Bs. It's going to be guys that you can put in that you're comfortable with, and you're not going to lose anything in quotation marks. So just know that with Franco moving on, that it's going to be experienced center back coming in to help out with Miles, to help out with Purata, to help give advice to Noah Cobb. So that's what we're looking at here with Alan Franco. Michael, let's do some research. Let's workshop this. How many old firms this year, given the SPFL weird scheduling and cups? Let's go ahead and all right. So let's look at the grid first and foremost and see what you're looking at in the numbers in the Premiership. All right, so standings, you're looking at least 2. So let's see. And you're okay. So, all right, how many old firms this year? And I want to get this correct. And when Jarrett comes on this season, I want Jarrett to okay, so old firm dates confirmed for 22-23. Yeah, okay, fine. I'm responsible using cookies. Great, fine. All right. Okay, 3. Okay. Celtic and Rangers finished on the top half, bound to meet in the split. All right, so New Year's Derby, Easter weekend, and the split. And Bart Keeler will join us here in just a second for his 9:30 visit. And we're doing math, which is never good. So if you said cup plus 3 in the split, so 4 minimum. 4 minimum is what we know. So that's where we are. So 4 minimum, and it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, weird scheduling in cups for Old Firm, and 2 left in the league. So not counting today. So yeah, so there's like 11 billion, and they got one more minute to go, and it's still tied at 2. So Bart Keeler, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. It's a little hard to hear you way up here at top of the table, but I'll do my best to try to understand what you're saying to the league leader right now.
See, now you're all fired up. We can talk Premier League since you went there. Let's go there. Yeah, so I mean, it was on my list of things, and and my list of things is all across the board this morning. Since Old Firm has about 30 seconds to go, and Rangers and Celtic are tied at 2, and there's gnashing of teeth and all of that kind of stuff.
Well, you got some good derbies today in Scotland. First off, you've got Old Firm, and then you've got the Edinburgh Derby today with Hearts and Hibs. So, good day for soccer.
Provided we can find a place to watch them.
You can't.
Who said that? Was that me? All right. So let's get into Arsenal here for a second. And I will go ahead and appease the gentleman whose team is at the top of the table, who I imagine has been drinking from his coffee mug that has said logo on it. Rebecca Lowe, NBC Sports, said Arsenal was going to win the title. Do you take that as jinx, or do you take that as gospel?
Well, I think it could be somewhere in between. I don't think if we lose it, I don't think it's a jinx. I think it's a catastrophic failure at this point, or an incredible run by Man City. That's where I am right now. Is at the beginning of the year I said, hey, let's get top 4, win a cup maybe. Now I'm like, well, we should win the whole thing. That's where you have put yourself in position to be. It has been quite an impressive run of not just playing good soccer, because sometimes it hasn't always been good, but for the most part it has been. But even when you haven't been at your best, you've won, and that's been the most impressive part of the season. Because as you know, and as I know, there are a lot of Arsenal teams from the past decade and a half, 2 decades, that would have folded in a lot of these matches where things didn't quite go the way they wanted to. I mean, the West Ham match was a great example where you dominate the first half, but you give up a silly penalty, and now you're down to 1-0 going into halftime. You come out and win by quite a lot. So I do think that this team has what it takes to win the Premier League. I thought yesterday was a good example. Yesterday? New Year's Eve. Sorry. What day is it? What year are we in?
Exactly.
I thought New Year's Eve was a great example of a team that came out realizing that they had an opportunity. A lot of teams dropped points. They understood the chance they had to really increase their lead, and now you're looking at the fact that you're talking. Not only do we have the game in hand, but we're a full 7 points ahead. You're not catching us with just a couple of bad results, and that to me is the cushion that gives me the most faith that we will see this through. Is that we're at the point now where a couple of bad results won't kill us. Mm-hmm. We're not suddenly looking up at a bunch of people after a tie or a loss, and that's positive.
When you look at when you look at the defense, you look at guys like Saliba and Gabriel. You're getting fantastic work from Martinelli, and your offense. You're about as well-rounded as anyone can anticipate. And I know that Mikel Arteta got a metric crap ton of grief. It's like, oh, I don't know. You're leaving Manchester City, and, you learn from Pep. Can you do your own thing? He was left alone, and he's been able to do his own thing, and he's been given the runway to do what he's been able to do. And I think that Arteta should get a lot of credit in this.
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously, I'll be the first to say it wasn't great to start off. But the fact that we've been patient with him, the fact that he's been able to learn how to be a true team manager, not just a good tactician or a good coach. That says a lot, and I think the guys enjoy playing for him. I know specifically people have seemed to credit him for not just saying do this, but explaining why you need to do this, which makes the game feel a little bit more um, ingrained in your mind and also holistic, but also allows you to then ad lib where you see fit because now you're saying now you know what the ultimate goal is or what the purpose of these movements are, and so you can kind of do your own thing when needed. And so I think, I think a lot of credit needs to go to Arteta for putting together a team and a system that can be both variable, but also is very ingrained in the team's mind right now because they all seem to be playing under the same vision, and that's really awesome.
All right. So Abby says it sounds like you're preparing either breakfast or coffee.
Yes, coffee right now.
Like I said, Abby brings that kind of stuff up, and as you well know, this show is pretty much whatever we want it to be in the morning. And if somebody's making breakfast and they're not sharing, then they're going to be referenced for it. New Year's resolutions. First off, how was New Year's Eve?
New Year's Eve was a very fun time. I spent a lot of time with friends, so it's always good to bring in the New Year's with your friends, which that's the whole point of these silly holidays is spend time with those people that you love.
And do you have any resolutions that you have set forth, considering it's January?
Yeah, I do actually. I have a couple of New Year's goals.
Okay.
One is to referee an MLS next Academy game. So that's one of my goals this year.
Yeah.
Hopefully get the call on one of those. That's definitely one. Others are, financial commitments like, hey, pay down some debts, reduce your credit card usage, that kind of, that unfun stuff. But most of my goals are geared towards having enough money to go to New Zealand to watch the U.S. women play.
Nothing wrong with that. So, all right. So since you mentioned the professional goal, let me ask you this. And this happened after your last visit and before the end of the calendar year. Did you see where USL said that they were not going to have an association with Pro for the upcoming season?
Yeah, I was a little confused how this was going to work. What was it? I forget what month exactly, but towards the end of the season, there was the announcement that they would have their own sort of referee union for lower leagues, which I thought was a positive thing. But that was supposed to be within Pro. So I'm not entirely sure how this is going to work. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Pro is the best thing because I do not believe that it has done a good job.
Right.
However, the benefit of using a professional referee organization is that you have a group of people from whom you can choose to referee your matches. So, I think at the USL Championship level specifically, you still want to have access to the best referees we have in this country. And even at League One, probably want that as well. Now, at USL League 2 and below, I don't think they're as important. But I am curious how they're going to be able to find who they deem to be quality enough referees to referee their matches. Because I got news for y'all. I know we bag on referees a lot in this country. We're still looking at the best referees in the country refereeing MLS and the second tier refereeing USL Championship. And that's not going to just change. I don't know if Ishmael Elfath is somehow going to be refereeing a USL Championship game. So I am curious how that's going to work.
And that was one of the concerns I think that we have put across the bow here is that, okay, if you're not going to associate, and we all know everybody's pitfalls and opinions when it comes to Pro, but if you're not going to associate with the, for lack of a ranking system, the number one organization, the one that has the most recognition, I guess let's phrase it that way, when it comes to officials, where you were going to get said officials. I mean, Bart, you may end up doing some League One and USL Championship matches this season, here in the Southeast. But
Okay.
we laugh about it, but at the same time, my spidey senses are up on this.
Yeah, I mean, same, and that's where I'm with you. Is that it's just do you just pull from people in the state? Because I mean, don't get me wrong, we have some great referees in the state of Georgia, who very well may be able to handle those matches. But I mean, I'm thinking of even the college game where you have, obviously they have their own certification system because they are operating under a slightly different set of rules and whatnot. But like, still, you still have a lot of referees, traveling great distances to referee college games. They're not just from, down the road. They're not just from the local area. So even in that situation, there's a pool of officials that work those games. And even in that system, they have rankings of what type of referee are you and what are you capable of handling. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure they have a plan. I will give USL a lot of credit. They do seem to have plans for these things. I just think this is a very weird break off from the professional system as a whole.
How much time have you invested in yourself to become the referee that you are?
Well, I started this when I was 15. I'm 33 now.
Okay.
So whatever that math is.
18.
Yeah, there you go. So I've considered myself a referee for 18 years. I have not refereed for all of those 18 years. Obviously, I had to go to college and play a little bit, and then did not referee during grad school because education.
Yeah.
But even then, I was reading laws of the game. I was still keeping up with that. I mean, I will be the first to say I think that we need to have more opportunities to educate ourselves outside of the annual recertification process. Some clubs around here do a good job of coaching their younger referees, but even then, it seems to be more for the younger referees. Now, I have tried more recently. I take notes of my games, keep track of things that I feel like I did well, things I didn't do well, how to fix them. Actually listening to coaching critique, and taking through a filter what they're saying and how I can improve myself. But
through a filter,
yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of time and effort that goes into it outside of just refereeing, and it's not always, I bought this jersey. It's going through when you watch matches, how is that referee handling themselves? What are they doing? Do you feel like this was appropriate or not? Sometimes talking out loud to the commentators who are criticizing the referee decision, and saying, no, I actually think he got that right. So, there's a lot of little things that go into it, but it's a lot of work to be a good referee. It really is, and it's not just when you get out there on the field.
And that was why I wanted to ask about this, because and to Byrne's point, maybe the USL can create their own group of refs and train them up properly. After a while, they cannot be possibly worse than current USL refs. Yeah,
I'm going to reiterate that we had American referees, pro referees, involved in very late stages of this World Cup, including the fourth official of the final. Yeah. So, but Bart, to your point, yeah, I think that's been one of the biggest criticisms of pro that I've seen, both from NWSL referees and USL Championship referees specifically, that there's not a lot of non-game. So, like, obviously after the game, you'll get an evaluation or critique, if you will, right. And those things are very important, but they tend to work mostly on just, you did this well, you did not do this well, and kind of give you a grade, if you will. But we need more than just, I think you did well, I think you did not well. And this is something that we have that problem at my level, where you have a bunch of referees and like 2 mentors, right? Or you have like 3 people who can evaluate you for the entire Atlanta area. There's more than that, but like, you know what I'm saying here. There's a disproportionate amount of referees to referee coaches, if you will. At the professional level, we shouldn't have that issue. So how do you institute more coaching, not just evaluation, but coaching? Because they need to say, if you didn't do this well, you need to have the next statement be, okay, here's some ways that you can help work on that. And that's, I think, the hope of what USL Championship is doing, because I've seen that was one of the biggest critiques of the pro system when they kind of split off and created their own second level professional referee organization.
Do you have your own mentors and sounding boards, or referee bartenders, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, where you can sit there and dial somebody up on, whenever you need to have a talk and sit there and go, hey, can we talk about X, Y, or Z? Do you have those sounding boards readily available for you?
Readily available, not particularly. I do have a good relationship with a couple of my assigners where I could have this conversation with them if I really needed to. I have a couple of friends in the referee industry, one who's a bit more advanced than I am, who I talk to about certain things, and I have a couple of friends at my actual level where we just talk about and kind of complain. But because you need that as well, because so I tweet about it on sometimes, but most of the time I feel like I'm just screaming into the void about some of the issues we have. But yeah, I mean, it's not as plentiful as I would like. There are referee mentor programs in Georgia. That's actually one of my goals for 2024. I know that's weird to have that, but 2024 is to become more of a to become a referee mentor, which is an actual certification process to help younger referees. But kind of what we do is when we get out there, we just talk. Sometimes we talk more refereeing than others. But I definitely have myself taken more of a mentorship role on younger referees and tried to help them, because I remember being their age and having a couple of people who have helped me. And I was blessed to have a couple of really awesome mentors at a young age that not only taught me how to referee better, but taught me how to be a little bit more of a professional referee. So, they were very instrumental in my development, and very thankful for what they've done.
Abby is in, and this is
Good morning, Abby.
Yes. She goes, can some group of referee training in Georgia talk to the GHSA, tell them that they cannot have 2 center refs and no ARs for high school games? It takes away from the integrity of the game.
Well, and I will raise my hand and say I'm somewhat part of this problem. We would need more referees.
Yes.
And that's the main reason why we have that particular setup, is a shortage of referees. And every high school sport, period, has a problem with finding officials.
You ain't kidding.
Everyone, period. So, unfortunately, Abby, the answer is unlikely.
Burned is back in. He goes, I'm not referring to all pro refs in MLS, etc., but the folks in USL are just not prepared for second division soccer.
No, they're not. They're not. Sorry, but Burned is completely right. But that's not necessarily their fault either. And I want people to understand that and Jason talks about this all the time. We have not been able to properly develop and train referees for the professional level. However, I will be the first to also say this goes hand in hand with a lot of the soccer infrastructure in this country not being built in the way that it has in other countries. We do not value soccer referees. We do not fully invest in referee development because we're so focused on creating winning soccer players. And I'm not even talking about good soccer players. I'm saying winning soccer players. That is an intentional phrase there. And when that's your focus, a lot of other things don't get the love that they need.
He says there's a much bigger gap, Byrne continuing, there's a much bigger gap between the level of players and the level of referees in USL than in MLS. MLS is mostly okay. USL is not okay. Training will be key.
100%. And I will, again, go back to say that MLS itself is 25 years old.
Yeah.
It's younger than I am, 27 years old. USL has been a thing for spurts, throughout its history, and finally has reached a level of stability. So the leagues themselves haven't really been able to become a concrete idea until recently.
Yeah.
And I think the problem is before, again, you and Jason have talked about this for ad nauseum almost, but soccer has not grown in this country because of Americans at a lot of parts of its history.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people came over here with the game and developed it. They weren't refereeing; they were coaching or playing. So we are at a disadvantage where we do not have a history of developing referees, and so we're building this out of nothing.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to American-born referees, not someone who moved here from somewhere else where they were a referee and knew soccer. We're still a very young soccer nation. I'm sure if you were to watch the refereeing in earlier World Cups, you would probably say that they were really bad.
Yeah.
But we are not there yet, but we should have the resources. We should have the potential to expedite that. I don't think we're putting those resources in the right applications.
Abby's asking if MLS can get involved in stress development of refs. Can we as fans start stressing to Major League Soccer the importance and that we really want that investment?
I'm not quite sure what avenue you would use because, I don't think a boycott of games would be an appropriate response to this. I'm sure you can fill out your season ticket holder questionnaire at the end of the season or whenever they give you a questionnaire during the season and say, hey, improve the referees. I think if we did that, maybe, but I got to be honest, I'm not quite sure through which avenue we would be best served to do that.
I mean, yeah, I mean, short of the consumer surveys and things like that, I don't know how you reach out to Major League Soccer and impress upon them that we would like, we as fans, we as an entity would like to have referee development. And then if I'm following my own train of logic, MLS then would probably turn toward pro and sit there and say, well,
Yep.
then you could talk to the professional referees
Absolutely.
because they're the individuals who are the referees. We just have the avenue where we get to use what pro is doing. Abby wants to know if you can go through front offices. At least some teams have really good rapport with the front office. I mean, sure. You go ahead and make your voice be heard. However, you think that that you think it would be beneficial for the game to do it, and don't ever turn down an opportunity to sit there and say what you think, especially when it comes to the development of officials. But my line of thought is that if you were to mention something to anything associated inside Major League Soccer, they would say, well, talk to pro. And
right.
Then where do you go from your discussion with pro? Pro would be like, okay, well, thanks for letting us know. And then they would go on with their day probably.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing that I would very much say would be two things. That would be a very big step that these professional clubs could take is one, hosting the referee development or the referee training classes at their facilities.
Yeah.
In Atlanta, very few places have the facilities that Atlanta United has. So, that'd be kind of and that would attract more people, right? Atlanta United could, if they were to host it, they could advertise and say, hey, become a referee in the state of Georgia. We're hosting a intro certification class on this day. Come to the Atlanta United training grounds, learn how to be a referee, and set yourself up for a lifetime of, a side hustle.
A lifetime of people yelling at you.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And so that would be one thing that I think that that MLS and the professional clubs, not even just MLS, but USL could do, because they're in large population areas where you're going to be able to attract not only people in, say, Louisville, but also, across the river in Ohio or, just south of you. If you're in Atlanta, Marietta is a little bit difficult, but, you're talking about getting people from all across the state at that point because they just want to go to Atlanta United, right? So that would be one thing that they could do. The other would be, implement referee and coaching education. It's a little bit easier to do referee education with their academy players.
Yeah.
I think that would be something that would be really cool, is to have the academy kids. I know specifically in volleyball, the kids have to take a kind of base level refereeing course because a lot of them have to be line judges. Sometimes they even have to be the down referee. So why not do that in soccer where they're being taught a little bit about the game and have that background?
I think like trying to solve the world's problems the first weekday in 2023. Bart Keeler.
No, I literally haven't even made my coffee yet. So
I know. Hey,
I just put it in there.
You and me both, without our caffeine, trying to fix the world's problems when it comes to the sport of soccer. That's a dangerous proposition. Bart Keeler, Bartimus Prime 19 on the Twitters from the SoccerforUS POD, hanging out with us here.
By the way, do we want to talk Kansas City? Do we want to turn that page to Ronaldo going to Kansas City and that ludicrous, insane possibility?
Well, yeah, because that was on the list this morning too, and I wanted to get into it and make that today's required reading. Go to kansascity.com and read the article about how Sporting was really, really interested in bringing CR7 to Kansas City. Well, I mean, he is. I mean, he is.
He is. Yeah.
And he'll be CR38 next time he turns, when he's making all of that bank at Al Nasser, getting passes from PT Martinez, where he's demanding passes from PT Martinez. Did I say that?
Yes. Yeah, that part.
So this was really interesting because you're sitting there at first glance and saying, Cristiano Ronaldo to Sporting Kansas City. And the first thought I had in my head was, well, frankly, Peter Vermes is going to strangle CR37.
Yes.
He's not going to, pass the ball. But when you get past that notion and you get into the ideas here, the play-by-play of the recruitment, I think that's the key here. And when you sit there and, you call the triple bank shot, which is what they referred to it as. It's like the triple Indy or the triple bank shot, whatever, the Big Ben left or Big Ben right, if you're, from this part of the country. You call that, and it's just like, sometimes you just got to, Joel, like in Risky Business, Joel, sometimes you just got to say what the blank. And that's what this was.
Yeah.
And so you reach out, and then you reach out some more, and you reach out some more, and you reach out some more. And then there's interest. And I think what it does, and the way that Kansas City went about it and the way that Sporting went about it, where you bring in the example of a Patrick Mahomes, and it's like, okay, here's the deal. Here is a transcendent figure in one of the largest leagues in this country, and he's allowed to live his life in this city. He can go out and he can, and he can have a family life, and he can go out and do things, and that can be attractive to these megastars in these environments. It won't happen in every market. Like if you go to Inter Miami and you are of the Messi CR37, landscape, if you're that transcendent a figure in the sport of soccer, you won't be left alone. But in Kansas City, part of the recruitment was you can be normal here. And that's attractive to Cristiano Ronaldo's camp. It's like, hey, you want to be normal? You can come here and be normal. You won't get hounded. You can do your job. We can do all the other things that will make up the balance of all of the contract and everything. And then that was the other aspect where you had to be imaginative when it came to all those other aspects. And, hey, Beckham got his deal. Beckham got the Beckham deal. So CR37, I'm sure, would get something like that. But it's a great case where teams in Major League Soccer can sit there and say, you want to be normal, you can do that here. And I thought it was really cool the way that Sporting went about it, even though he eventually went and got the 3 for 2. You okay? You got the 3.
Yeah.
You got the 3 for 200 at Al Nasser. I thought it was a really cool pulling back of the curtain as to how, if you can bring in megastars in the future as DPs in Major League Soccer. I thought it was a really cool pull back of the curtain there that the Kansas City Star did.
Yeah, it was really good reporting because I think when this first came out and Taylor Twellman tweeted it, we were all like, what the F? Like, no way. And I'll be the first to say a little bit of shade toward Kansas City. Not exactly a world-class city. Now, I will be the first to also say that the United States has way more good cities to live in from a just comfort level than any country in the world. But I was a little um, I was not able to wrap my head around why Ronaldo would want to go to Kansas City. And I will also say this. I don't know if we can say that Ronaldo himself wanted to go to Kansas City. Everything seemed to involve his camp, his people, his team. But I think that is definitely, I mean, we've seen this here in Atlanta, which I do think is a better city, especially a more international city than Kansas City, where Joseph has said this and other big players have said this, that they can, if they get seen in public, it's a greeting of love and like, oh my gosh, that's really him. But we're not hounding them. We might ask for a selfie. We're not following them to their car, type of stuff. And I think that is something that as a country, and I think we do this mostly with all of our professionals. We're not going to sit here and try to, I don't know, hound them, chase them down, all these things. We're mostly respectful of our professional athletes, and I think that is something that we've seen here in Atlanta that has attracted people here, is that they can live. Some of them say without fear. I don't know if that was necessarily Ronaldo's particular issue, but definitely without having to be a super public persona. You can have a private life. You can go out. I mean, Jurgen Damm ate at a steakhouse every day he was here in Atlanta, I think, and never mentioned anything about being, hounded by the press or fans. And I think that is a testament to our soccer culture here in the States.
Here's part of the Sam McDowell piece. Throughout the process, Sporting sought to use the market size as an advantage, not a hurdle, and they were informed it had become an attractive selling point, quoting Peter Vermes. I don't look at it as a negative. I look at it as a positive. The negative is a lot of people just know about it. But when you know about it, it becomes a positive. It's not like you're trying to hide away from it. Once you have the ability to explain the city, then it took on a positive connotation with the player. He can't go anywhere in those places. Here, he can live his life. He can go out. He can go eat dinner. He can have a life that he can't have in other places, which is a huge benefit. And that was when they would continue to circle back to Patrick Mahomes and go, hey, and Mahomes was like, what do you need from me to help out in this process? And if it got to the point to where they needed to bring him in the bullpen to do the closing act, then Patrick Mahomes would be that individual. But obviously it didn't happen because it goes to Al Nasser, 3 for $200, and we know this. Could be $11 billion by the time the contract is done.
Well, at the end of the day, he took the money. Let's be real honest. And I think to me that was the part that I was most incredulous toward, was the money situation. Because I did the math. Kansas City's top 5 earning players, they all earn over $1 million.
Yep.
But combined, they earn less than $8 million a year. So this is a significant increase in what you're willing to pay a player. And obviously they broke it down because it wasn't just straight up cash from the club. It was obviously, sponsorships and endorsements and all these things. I mean, obviously the man who has been a Nike man for forever, playing in the same country as the Nike manufacturer, would have been something they could have done. There's obviously ways to get the man his money, but I was most shocked at they were even able to come up with a number close to what the Saudi oil club was able to produce.
And that to me is okay. So you've got to be really imaginative, and you've got to think in 3 dimensions with all these metrics and figure out, okay, well, if we do this, if we do this, if we do this, if you have sponsor dollars and you hit these numbers, then you're going to be making this, this, and this. And Peter Vermes said, does it mean we're going to take more chances? The answer is yes. But obviously the situations have to make sense for both the on the field and off the field aspects of that acquisition. In this situation, there's the soccer side and there's the commercial side. When you go after that player, he's going to give you something on the field and you obviously pay for that. But you also know that off the field, he's also paying you back. That's why you can go after a player like that. That's why each one of these deals is a case-by-case basis. It's not one wand that covers all.
Yeah, and I think obviously, as I just said, Kansas City is not a team that likes to spend a lot of money. Sporting Club is not a money spender. They never have been. But Cristiano Ronaldo makes your money back.
Yeah.
So, you can spend money on that dude because you're going to make money back in jersey sales, in everything. Season ticket go up, 18,000 seats is not enough there at Children's Mercy Park all of a sudden.
But do you play more games at Jiha? Do you play more games at Arrowhead because of this?
Well,
if Arrowhead is wide enough,
yeah,
I would say, yeah, you do.
Yeah, I mean, I think you would have. I think that's the same question that Miami's going to have to ask themselves when they get Messi, because even their new stadium is not going to be enough. What is that, 27-ish thousand?
27.
That won't be in.
Yeah, 27 people to 32 with the airport and making sure that it's
that won't be able to hold the amount of people who want to come watch Messi play. So those are the legitimate questions. But those are good problems to have. Obviously, Hard Rock could fit a soccer stadium. It's always been wide enough for that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know Arrowhead has hosted soccer before, and I think it hosted World Cup matches. So I think technically it could. But again, you're able to now afford a little bit of a. And hey, look, the thing about Arrowhead is if you're talking soccer, you have a guy who owns that team, who is friendly to the sport. So I don't think that would have been too big of an issue.
And he's
going to get a cut because because of the way that MLS is structured.
yeah, no doubt. And Abby refuses to call it by the casino. We're going to call it after the owner of the old owner of the Miami Dolphins. But to Nick's point, you mentioned Messi. And the Messi extension, do you think that he goes still to Miami after signing the extension, or does he just go home after this contract is done?
I mean, I don't know. I think he still very well could. One last paycheck wouldn't hurt, and being able to live in Miami for a year might not hurt. I mean, it might be that his family likes Miami.
Yeah.
Also, and this is, oh my God, I'm sorry for bringing this up because this has been an issue. Where is home for Messi? Is it Argentina?
Yeah.
Is it? Hasn't that been the thing for him his whole career?
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if he still comes to Miami and his family decides, yeah, we kind of like it here.
Well, so for the 25 season, he shows up leading into World Cup 26, stays through the World Cup, and then goes home?
Yeah, that could, or again, like you said, maybe Miami becomes his home. Maybe he goes, I like Miami. I mean, the man's going to have enough money to have multiple homes. But where will he want to raise his children? That's a legitimate question.
Yeah.
Because they're not young, but they're young enough. And that was an interesting conversation that I think I still think he very much can come to Miami. I do.
Yeah.
I don't think that's out of the question.
Yeah, and I mean he's got the $8 million condo apartment that I think is still active there. So he's got a place to hang his hat if he wants to hang out in Miami already.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to see what else was on my list this morning. But yeah, that was pretty much. We had the Alan Franco deal we talked about. We had CR7 in Kansas City, Vinicius Jr. The January window has opened up. Do you believe that your beloved Arsenal is going to be making any kind of moves in the January window?
Yeah, I mean, I still think that we're going to need to make a move for someone to back up Gabriel Jesus, because I don't think it's likely he'll return for the rest of the season, based on everything that we've heard about his injury. That said, Nketiah has scored in back-to-back games. So, the question is, is he good enough? Well, he's scoring, so maybe. I do think that we'll probably find another striker or winger just to give us some depth there, especially one behind Martinelli.
Mm-hmm.
And then it wouldn't surprise me if we find another defender just in case. But I mean, we have decent ones right now. But I think we might find one more who maybe isn't to help us now, but can help us both now and in the future.
Somebody not named Matthias Guendouzi.
Yeah. Although, hey, look, credit to him going to wherever he's Montpellier now and being okay, making the World Cup squad. Good for him.
Yeah. You've got Newcastle tomorrow, by the way.
Yes.
At the Emirates.
Yeah.
Some guy named
big
Miguel.
test. Yeah, maybe we'll sign Miguel Almiron. We need a winger.
Burns says he doesn't think Nketiah is at the same level as Gabriel Jesus and won't be enough to beat top teams.
Okay. Okay. I don't think you're wrong, Burn. That's not what I said. There are very few people at the level of Gabriel Jesus. But you don't necessarily need someone to be at that level.
Yeah.
You just need someone to be at a level good enough to get by. And like I said, you've got a 7-point cushion. That's three matches in a row.
Yep.
If you have to have bad results. Bad results. And my other counterpoint would be you don't have to beat the good teams. You just have to not lose to the bad teams.
Yes.
And that's always the formula I look at for winning the league is just don't lose to the teams that are worse than you.
I think the last 5 times that someone has been first at this particular point of the table in this particular time of the calendar, they have finished first on their own. But that's the beauty of Festive Fixtures, where Festive Fixtures, you have all of these games in a real short period of time. You have like 3 and 17, 19 days, and you end up with Chelsea and Nottingham Forest tying. You end up with Everton and Manchester City tying. You end up with Leeds and Newcastle tying.
Yeah.
Brentford, well, I was going to say Brentford beating West Ham, but West Ham probably is going to be getting rid of David Moyes if this continues. But Festive Fixtures is a pain in the butt for Premier League, for the teams and for the fans.
Yeah. No, it really is. And I like the idea of Festive Fixtures. I love the idea of playing on Christmas and New Year's or around that. That's fantastic, right? Playing on Boxing Day, then turning around and playing on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day is really cool. Yeah. Obviously, here in the States, we do that. We have Thanksgiving Day games and we have Christmas Day games. Those are all cool. But you can't overload the schedule like they try to do.
Yeah. No, that is the part that you're going to have teams come up and bite others from the Group 2 and Group 3 are always going to bite Group 1. We need to come up with a day and a time where you will be a consistent visitor now that we are getting through the national holidays and turning into 2023. We have to have this discussion offline.
Okay. We can do that and figure out which works best. Obviously, we have U.S. men's and women's national team fixtures this month. We've got a World Cup this year, so lots to talk about leading up to that.
No doubt. And then, we've got the match in Chattanooga on the 28th. Yes. We have AmFam 2 the day after Valentine's Day, which is the perfect Valentine's Day gift for anybody. Going to go see AmFam 2. And then on the 25th, the season starts. And you've booked everything to go to the Women's World Cup, haven't you? Or are you still kind of lying in wait to book?
No, I'm still lying and waiting. I'm still trying to figure out exactly when I want to go because, to be quite honest, I don't need to go watch the U.S. women beat Vietnam 27-0. Yes. And depending on who that qualifier is, don't know if I want to stick around to watch them beat whoever that is by a similar margin. So I'm still debating on when I come in, but I definitely want to be there for the Netherlands match. So yeah, still putting everything together. It's also we're 8 months away from it, so I've got time.
Okay, all right. Well, obviously we'll keep an eye on that too. So go make your coffee, go have your breakfast, and we will catch up with you. Obviously, the bat signal's out pretty much any day you want to jump in. So it's all yours whenever you want to come and party.
Thanks, John. Thanks, everyone. And have a blessed new year. Hope all of your resolutions become mostly true.
Yes, there you go. So Bart Keeler. Bart, thanks for hanging out. And that's Bart. And so Bart's going to go make breakfast finally. and go make his coffee. And yeah, Michael, I know that for Chelsea fans, you're hoping that Todd Bowley gets a signing that will work. And I know that the frustration is there with Graham Potter as well, especially after the draw yesterday. Yeah, they overload the schedule. FA Cup games are this weekend. It's going to be just yeah, and that was why I wanted to remind everybody when it comes to what we're seeing with Atlanta United and Major League Soccer, where you're going to have Leagues Cup, you're going to have Open Cup, you're going to have 34 matches in Major League Soccer. So you're going to be, even if you don't go far, you're north of 40 matches and 3 or 4 in Open Cup, maybe. You're getting group stage and Leagues Cup. Do you get through that? So, I mean, that puts you pretty close to 40. That doesn't include playoffs and, anything like that. So you're looking at north of 40 matches this year. So you're not going to need starter backup. You're going to need 1As and 1Bs. And that's going to be the true test for a lot of front offices in Major League Soccer this year. Getting those 1As and 1Bs and having it fit into the cap. Christmas break. Yeah. And they'll be back probably February? Knicks don't know, but obviously what we always say, especially in months like this, watch your sources, follow your sources, follow your sourcing. Because remember late last month when we saw the thing with Caracas FC, and that was attached to Dia de los Inocentes, the Day of the Innocents, which is basically like April Fool's. Watch your sources, watch days like that, and just always check the numbers. And that is Jarrett's number one tenet. Always check your sources, check your levels, check the number of followers on any kind of social media that you follow. Don't know if we get any news on Joseph this month, but we will certainly keep an eye on what we're looking at there. So obviously it's going to be one of the other storylines that we'll be paying attention to this month. So remember this morning also, and probably also, this week, since it's the first week, New Year's resolutions. Whatever your New Year's resolutions are, want to see them, want to hear them, and let us know and share them with everybody else. Like I said, mine, pretty much the standard things. You want to be a good husband. You want to lose weight. You want to get in better physical condition, those kinds of things. So that's kind of where it is for me. And since we have passed the halfway point of the show, that means it's time to do this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim the music down and come back in and hit the music and go here. Because it's time to read a promo from our friends at Eliminize here for the first time in 2023. Product-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's a Eliminize service, deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. Eliminize has created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet, cigarettes, and food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes at the master's turnkey process. Makes it easy to work with realtors and property managers. Kind of the environment. We like that these days, offering a green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever, different than Febreze or other masking agents that we have either under the sink or above us in the cupboard, because when we reach under the sink or above us in the cupboard to get out said masking agent and you spray the masking agent in the air, you're just masking the odor, not attacking the problem like our friends at Eliminize do all the way down to the molecule with their proven scientific formula to help you attack your problem. Pricing very, very easy, either by the cubic foot or parts per million, to come up with a price that's affordable for you, offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, one place you need to go, it's the website. This is where I pick up my pen. Website's eliminize.com, but do us a favor. After the .com, go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world that you are addressing them from, so they can help you with your issues. So your full homework assignment, eliminize.com /Atlanta, eliminize.com /Atlanta. Eliminize service, proud sponsors of everything SDH here in 2023. And I moved it down, but of course it got louder. I don't know why this works. I don't know why it does what it does. Excuse me. So we'll cut the music, and Then we'll sit there and get you ready for hour number 2 with everything that is on the board. Let me talk to you. Thank you, Eli. Hour number 2, gossip, rumor, innuendo, getting you ready for the day. Premier League odds, and like I said, we'll go through the matches, and we'll go through, because January window is going to be kind of crazy. And when you look at the gossip, all the gossip, rumor, innuendo, things left unsaid, here's your rumors for the day. Barcelona and Frankie de Jong said a change of heart about Manchester United. Now wants to join them in the summer. So I guess our new national nightmare is around Frankie de Jong. Chelsea have reached an agreement with Monaco to sign French defender Benoit Badiashile. That's from Ornstein on Monday. Manchester United, Chelsea could engage in a bidding war to sign Inter Milan and Netherlands defender Denzel Dumfries. That's from Marco Barzaghi via the Express. Mykhailo Mudryk has agreed on personal terms on a 5-year contract with Arsenal. Now they just have to get the financial squared away with Dario Serna, the sporting director at the technical director at Shakhtar Donetsk. So we'll see what that is. The first bid was turned down somewhere in the neighborhood of $55 million. Let's see what the bid is. Shakhtar is still fighting UEFA over $40 million in damages for losing players to basically free transfers and not being able to get them back because of the war that's currently going on. So you have Shakhtar on one hand that is trying to sue for damages, and they're doing so in the Court of Arbitration for Sport. They're also trying to do business with a very talented player. And they initially were looking in the neighborhood of £100 million. Dario Serna kind of intimated, yeah, I know I'm not going to get that. I'd settle for 60. So we'll see how close they get to that. Chelsea also planning further talks with Benfica over Enzo Fernandez after beginning an aggressive pursuit of the Argentina player. You're talking the release clause north of 9 figures, and it looks like teams are wanting to meet that and then bring Enzo Fernandez in. So we'll see what happens there. Maybe that is your transaction that you're looking at, Michael Head. Manchester United monitoring developments with Borussia Mönchengladbach and France forward Marcus Thuram with the 25-year-old out of contract in the summer. That's from the 4-letter paper, so take the information at your own peril. Arsenal may be able to sign Leicester City and Belgian midfielder Yuri Tielemans as the Foxes made a £20 million bid for a possible replacement, Azzedine Ounahi, who plays for Angers and Morocco. Everton have registered their interest in Manchester United and Sweden winger Anthony Elanga. Arsenal striker Folarin Balogun may leave the club with AC Milan interested in signing the 21-year-old who's on loan at Reims. That's from our friends at Calcio Mercato. Borussia Mönchengladbach 21-year-old midfielder Claudio Kone, who's a target for Newcastle, has been contacted by PSG. Manchester United could be on the lookout for a new keeper in January after Newcastle recalled Martin Dubravka from his loan spell. Arsenal have triggered a clause to extend Bukayo Saka's contract by a year while discussing a longer deal with the 21-year-old. That's from the 4-letter paper. Norwich is going to hold talks with former Huddersfield boss David Wagner as they step up their hunt for Dean Smith's replacement. Dean Smith, remember, fired after winning only 3 in 13, and they were 12 points adrift from the automatic promotion spots. Still, in the craziness of the championship, they're still right in the heart of it, but impatience became part of the prescription for our friends at Carrow Road. There are 6 games going on right now in the championship. Norwich hosting Watford is one of them. Norwich went into the match at a -112. It is goalless in the 20th minute. Standings right now, we mentioned just how crazy it is. Norwich is, after losing 3 of 5, they stopped a 2-game losing streak last time out with a draw. They're at 36 points. They're 3 points out of 4th, but they are also 6 points away from 17th. So basically 16 through 4 through 16 separated by 7 points. Festive Fixtures has kind of separated some folks a little bit, but 4th through 10th separated by 3 points. 4th through 14th separated by 4. You had Preston North End, that's 5 points separating teams 4 through 15. So 12 teams separated by a total of 5 points from 4 through 15. Norwich right now 10-6-9, 36 points. On goal difference, they are 9th in the table, although they are as we've said, a win out of fourth. So impatience right now with our friends at Norwich. Leeds interested in Southampton striker Che Adams, and he would consider a move to Ellen Road. That's from Give Me Sport. Southampton's interest in Lorient and Nigeria forward Turim Muffy could help Leeds in their pursuit of Adams. So we'll keep an eye on that. That's your first round of gossip. So then we go to the local papers. Morning, Sean Vergara. And thank you once again for subscribing with Prime. And thanks to all of you guys for subscribing and being a part of the SDH family as we start another year. We'll start another season of SDH at the end of the month, season number 7 of Soccer's Morning Show. We'll kick off, and that'll start at the end of the month. So we'll keep an eye on all that stuff. Let's see if we can find the papers watch. And so we mentioned Mudryk agreeing to personal terms with Arsenal. So we'll keep an eye on that. Now, Arsenal could be at risk at losing Captain Martin Odegaard following reports that his early season form has caught the eye of Real Madrid. Manchester United have reportedly leading the race in a cut price deal for Thuram. So we'll keep an eye on what the deal is there. Unai Emery has insisted that Emi Martinez is still Aston Villa's number 1 keeper, despite making the Argentina keeper wait for his return, avoiding the 4-letter paper, as we always do, and the 3-letter paper. Daily Star says Spurs are nearing their first signing of the January transfer window with a deal for Sporting Lisbon defender Pedro Porro close. Express Barcelona could sell Rafinha after just 6 months at the new camp to fund deals for Bernardo Silva or Joao Cancelo, with Manchester United expressing interest in the winger last summer. Chelsea renewed belief that they can sign Enzo Fernandez. World Cup final referee Simon Marciniak has admitted his widely praised Argentina-France performance wasn't completely error-free. He actually did stuff on video where he would hold up his phone, and I think he had plays that he would reference on his phone that were not necessarily, in his mind, the right calls. Dubravka could be part of a potential swap deal for James Maddison, so we'll keep an eye on that. Manchester United and Arsenal are the front runners to sign Joao Felix in January. Juve striker Dusan Vlahovic is reportedly interested in ditching the Serie A giants, and this is the wording from our friends at Sky, to join Manchester United, according to reports. Evening Standard. Nottingham Forest investigating reports of alleged homophobic chanting during their draw with Chelsea on New Year's Day. Great. Ivan Toney could be available to play for Brentford against Liverpool on Monday after overcoming a serious injury scare. He landed funny, and they were looking at his knee last time out. That was scary stuff, and you were wondering if Thomas Frank and Brentford were going to have to do some shopping. And as it turns out, they probably still are, but not to the extent that they thought that they may. But once again, they still have to keep an eye on the investigation with Ivan Toney as well, separate from what's going on the field. From The Athletic and Ornstein on Monday, Joao Felix has Premier League interest, but the €21 million price tag is a stumbling block for any loan move because the Atletico Madrid wants the salary taken care of plus a lot of other things. And so Joao Felix and $21 million, that you got to keep an eye on that. Eddie Howe wants the Newcastle to sign a number 6. Moises Caicedo is also on the watch list along with Yuri Tielemans. David Wagner is on a 4-person short list, according to The Athletic, to take over for the Norwich City gig. Brighton confident that Alexis will be still their player at the end of January amid interest from Juve, Atletico Madrid, Chelsea, Arsenal, Manchester United. Of course, if you are Brighton and the price is too good to be true, somebody floats a rather large 8-figure check at you, I don't think you're going to say no. And once again, it'll be another great piece of business done by Brighton and Hove Albion when Alexis moves on, whenever that is. I don't think he's going to stay at Brighton forever and ever, but when he does move on, it'll be another good piece of business. So Moises Caicedo, by the way. And where have you heard about Moises Caicedo? Yeah, it's from Jason here on the network. Rangers would have to pay around £3 million for the services of Wolves defender Dion Sanderson. So keep an eye on all of that. Let's see. Antonio Conte, you heard on Prem and Proper yesterday. And he's blasting the crazy expectations after the Aston Villa loss, hinting that the team needs more backing. He needs more backing in the transfer market. He fourth loss in 7 Premier League games and conceding more than 1 goal in a 7th consecutive game for the first time since 1988. I think it's 10 straight that they've done that. 5th in the table, 13 behind Arsenal, who have a game in hand. Defended Spurs' performance despite the fact they only had 6 shots in 90 minutes. Hindicke needs more backing in the transfer market if they're going to challenge for major honors. Where have you heard that before from Nick on Soccer Over There? Quote, I continue to repeat that last season we made a miracle. It happened. Why? Because we played only one competition. We played with 12 or 13 players that didn't have injuries in the last 15 games. We played with the best players every game because we played only the league. Don't forget that with 3 games to go, Arsenal was 4 points up from us, and that we finished 20 points behind Manchester City. We did a miracle, but I knew what the situation was, and then I was very clear with the club to become title contenders about what was needed. And he says, I remember very well in the summer, people talked about Tottenham as title contenders, but in my experience, it was a bit crazy to see this. To become title contenders, to become a team ready to fight to win something, you need to have a solid foundation, which means to have 14 or 15 strong players with quality and the other young players to develop. Every season, you can add 2 players, but 2 players priced 50, 60, 70 million pounds. In this way, it means you're signing important players who can improve the quality and the level of your team. But this is a process, guys. This is a process, end quote. Spurs completed permanent signings, combined cost of 172 million pounds. Richarlison, Bissouma, Romero, Perisic, Longlaw, Jed Spence, Fraser Forster. In the summer, 172 million pounds. Conte insists he's also trying to create a winning culture at the club. People who think that you arrive and you win, this can happen for a team that are used in the past to winning. But if you're not used to it, it means you have to create the situation. For this reason, you need time and patience. I understand the fans are disappointed because they can say they've had patience for a long time. I understand, but the situation is this. If you want the truth, I will tell you the truth. Asked whether he feels Spurs fans have unrealistic expectations about the team, Conte said, I don't have to think about what are the expectations. I know what is the reality. I'm the coach. I live the club every day. I know the situation. I know the vision of the club. The club knows very well my thoughts about the situation. The situation was very clear. I continue to work to improve the club to create a solid foundation and then to develop. At the start of the season, I was very, very clear with the club. I said, okay, we can be competitive to win, but try to continue to improve in a way we can do it. Because also, you have to know there are clubs who can invest 200 to 300 million pounds, and then other clubs who have different policies. You have to respect other policies. But that has to be very clear to the people, because otherwise we can create an expectation that's not positive for the environment to create expectations in this moment that are not realistic. He wants to buy strong in the transfer market to continue developing the team. And there you go. So that's how things are looking right now for Spurs fans. Antonio Conte says you need to buy 2 players, 50, 60, 70 million pounds. And people who are screaming about Spurs, it's a process. FIFA, and I found this interesting, and it happened late last hour. FIFA will ask every country in the world to name a stadium in honor of Pelé. He's in Brazil for Pelé's funeral in Sao Paulo, told local reporters, quote, we're going to ask every country in the world to name one of their football stadiums with the name of Pelé. In April 2021, Rio de Janeiro abandoned plans to name the famous Maracanã after Pelé after it was vetoed by the state governor. Pelé's coffin placed inside the Vila Belmiro in Santos on Monday, the home ground of the club where he spent virtually his entire career. Infantino released a statement on the day of Pelé's death, described Pelé as an exemplary sportsman. Pelé had a magnetic presence. When you were with him, the rest of the world stopped. His life is about more than football, changed perceptions for the better in Brazil, South America, across the world. His legacy is impossible to summarize in words, but Gianni Infantino is asking every country in the world to name a stadium in honor of Pelé. Scott McTominay is supposed to return to the squad for Manchester United in short order, and Eric Ten Hag has confidence in Luke Shaw at center back. After helping United win at Wolves on New Year's Eve, he could start against Bournemouth on Tuesday. Lisandro Martinez resumed training, may be available, but if he's not healthy, Ten Hag is not going to have any hesitation putting Luke Shaw back in that position. Casemiro center half, Shaw against Forest. Although Leicester suffered defeat at Anfield, Brendan Rodgers much happier with his side's performance after the disappointment of the 3-0 loss to Newcastle, lamenting injury woes. Johnny Evans not expected to return for another month. So we'll keep an eye on that. Unhappy Everton fans planning to stage a sit-in demonstration at Goodison Park next month to protest at their unhappiness with, quote, incompetent management of the club. Frank Lampard, remember, they got the draw at Manchester City on Saturday, 5 points from their last 9 matches, have them a point just above relegation. Club facing the prospect of a second successive relegation fight. The 27 campaign last year, a reference to the number of years Everton had gone without a trophy, organized a number of protests and having rebranded as NS Now, a name taken from the club's motto, Nil Satis Nisi Optimum. They are planning more demonstrations. February 4th, peaceful sit-in protest at the conclusion of Everton and Arsenal. Further details announced near the time. So look out for February 4th when you're watching your Premier League matches, a sit-in protest from NS Now. Protests are set to begin there. We invite you to join and express our discontent with the incompetent management of our beloved football club by the current owner and board of directors. For too long, our club has fell behind our competitors on and off the pitch. We believe it's time for change, and that only by holding those in power accountable can we hope to see our team thrive on the pitch once more. Therefore, we'll be convening immediately after the final whistle to make our voices heard, demand better leadership for the future of our club. Marco Silva says he's not interested in comparisons for the last 2 Premier League campaigns, trying to keep his team grounded. Securing promotion last year, 25 points, 17 matches. They entered 2023 in 7th. Have to keep proving our quality, Silva said, playing with the same ambition. We don't like to compare. And the Pele funeral is set to begin 8 o'clock local time on Tuesday. Right now, it is a 24-hour wake going on right now. Also, Marco Silva, very coy about the return of Dan James. Could return to Leeds early from his loan at Fulham. And he also said that Alexander Mitrovic will stay on penalties, even though he missed one that could have made it a 3-1 margin in the win this past weekend. Jurgen Klopp says there's a chance Cody Gakpo could feature against Brentford. And Pep Guardiola has stressed Julian Alvarez has had not much of a rest following his World Cup exploits. So in the last minutes at 1-1 needed people in the box. That's why he played. But in the end, he rested 1 week, 10 days. Not much after the World Cup final. So Julian Alvarez on his way back to thinking. Virgil van Dijk has not ruled out anything this crazy season, but they're not thinking about the Premier League title as they trail Arsenal by 15 points. PSG, you remember them yesterday, missing Messi, missing Neymar, lose 3-1 to Lens. Kylian Mbappe led the line. Hugo Ekitike scored PSG's early equalizer, canceled out Przemysław Frankowski's 5th-minute opener. Then Lens got a goal from Luis Openda and Alex Claude Maurice. And so PSG's lead is now only 4 points at the top in Ligue 1. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. Getting into the scheduling and juice boxes for the day. We need to get into that before we go. And once again, thanks for hanging out tomorrow. We'll do it again as we always do. Right now, obviously, you've got early matches in Europe, in a couple of leagues, lower division stuff going on. Once again, remember, 6 matches in the championship right now. You've got matches in League 1 and League 2. And Wrexham right now is leading at Solihull Moors in the National League in the 33rd minute by the score of 1-0. They win in at a minus 164. And in the National League itself right now, they are hanging in there. They are 5 points behind Notts County, but they also have 2 matches in hand, including today. So Wrexham can close the gap. They've only given up 19 goals. They're 53 points. Notts County's at 58 as they try to get back into the 4th division of English football after their disastrous time with finances over the last handful of years. And so Wrexham, one of 3 matches going on right now in the championship. In the National League. Other matches going on, once again, lower divisions going on across the board. You've got championship action going on right now in Scotland. Premiership is going on. Aberdeen and Ross County are scoreless. Hearts leads Hibs 2-0. Kilmarnock, St. Mirren, Livingston, Motherwell, St. Johnstone, and Dundee United. Ligue 1, Lille and Reims is at 11 o'clock. You've also got more Middle East and North Africa coming up later today, 12:30. Brentford and Liverpool. Liverpool now a minus 175 at the G-Tech. Brentford is a plus 466. Championship at 3 o'clock, QPR, Sheffield United. Sheffield United's a plus 123. QPR at home's a plus 229. Your draw's a plus 239. Rennes and Nice is at 3 o'clock in France. Brazil, you have Copa de Sao Paulo and action in Jamaica as well going on today. So wrapping up what's going on when it comes to what you can watch and where you can watch it. Remember, we had Old Firm on CBS Sports Network this morning. BN and BN in Espanol had Ligue 1. BN in Espanol will have action going on at 11 Eastern, 1 Eastern, and 3 Eastern. They will have the quadruple header for Ligue 1 today on Monday. You've got USA Network will have, along with Universo, they will have Brentford and Liverpool. And on the plus at 3 o'clock, it is QPR and Sheffield United. So I'm going to go through the rest of the comments here and see if I've missed anything this morning. And yep, they are. And Abby was right before she went in and actually had to get some work done today. Sharif, to put an analogy to understand the rivalry between old firms, both location and competition, similar to Duke and UNC. I would say yes to a point. And when Jarrett comes on, Sharif, I will ask this question because it's deeper than just geography and rivalry. It's also about Catholics and Protestants. And so I'll ask Jarrett what the best analogy is, but I would say probably Duke UNC, but then you have to add in all the other factors. And so we'll get into that with Jarrett. So next time Jarrett is with us, remind me to ask this question. So that's so that's a key one next time that Jarrett's around. D. Graham still concerned, being an Arsenal fan, don't have the squad depth to hold off City, hoping that changes in this transfer window. Abby, do not know about when MLS Next and when a schedule is coming out. I imagine as we get as closer to the season in and of itself, we'll know venue, we'll know schedule, we'll know places, those kinds of things. Also, this morning, as we got into the big referee discussion, and thanks for Bart for doing that to kind of pull back the curtain a little bit. Emilio and Dan, why aren't owners more vocal about officials? You get fined if you're speaking in all of that stuff. And Nick's, they had his discovery rights. It was an interesting read to see what was going on with Cristiano Ronaldo and Sporting Kansas City. And what you're doing is it is leverage at the end of the day. Yeah, you take the 3 for $200 and you go to Al Nassr, but you sit there and go, hey, look, this team in America is interested. What are you going to do about it? And so, as we all know, it's a way to sit there and drive up interest and gin up interest and ideas and things like that. Well, if they're interested, what's it to you? And so, you completely understand that kind of stuff. PT was playing. Let me find PT's numbers quickly, and let me see if I can go to Transfermarkt and see what his game by game is. That was a picture that came out recently. Yes, accept all cookies. Goodness gracious. All right, in the Saudi Pro League. So he's played he played 45 minutes he was not in the squad recently, but he did play the day after Christmas. He played 45 minutes in the match against Al Hilal. And so, he had not been in the squad for quite a while, played the day after Christmas against Al Hilal, did not play New Year's Eve against Khalij. So we'll keep an eye on PT and what is going on in the Saudi Pro League with his time there right now. But like I said, played just after Christmas, did not play New Year's Eve. So we'll keep an eye on the number 10 for Al Nasser, PT Martinez. Also on the board this morning, and glad that you guys were going through all of the other discussions. And, and Nick's, to your point, I don't know if Messi goes. I think that, we did kind of talk it through a little bit where if he does the 2 years, then that takes you to 25. Then does he come and be the ambassador and play a year at Inter Miami, or 2 years, 25, 26? Then you're looking at 40-year-old Lionel Messi. 38. Yeah, 38 years old. So 38-year-old Lionel Messi coming to play in Major League Soccer. Does he do it? Does he go straight home? That's the question for the moment. But I think that signing this extension did make it more of a question as to whether or not he comes to Major League Soccer, or does he go straight home to Argentina to play. So we'll keep an eye on that. Also on the board, FA Cup games this weekend. Yeah, and Emilio, spot on. Need a center back accustomed to starting. That's what you need. Because, like I said, you need the 1As and the 1Bs. This is not starter reserve. This is 1A and 1B because of Leagues Cup and everything else going on. That's how you've got to approach things. But once again, you've got to do it within the structure of the cap, which is always the fun part. Abby, be safe. Go picking up the baby boy from the airport and make sure that everything is cool there. So that's your day. And so let's see. Alan Franco, we talked about the Prem, talked about Vinicius and Enzo Martinez with Ben Jacobs and all that kind of stuff. So reminder this week, like I said, for those of you that didn't bring in your New Year's resolutions, we'll be discussing that all week long. Jared will be coming back in. We'll talk about Old Firm and the comparisons that are there. If Nick is available, he can come in and he can discuss what's going on with all the transfers that are currently going on in Europe with Serie A players and all those other kinds of discussions. But we'll be back at it again tomorrow at 9:05. We'll continue to go through all of the topics that are here. Thanks to Bart Keeler for crashing the show this morning and discussing everything from refereeing to Arsenal and Major League Soccer. It's supporting Kansas City and their recruitment of CR7 and trying to get him to be a part of things. And the imagination that you're probably going to be seeing a lot more of, if you're chasing after those players that aren't quite 37, but those that are maybe just around the age of 30, and that you can be three-dimensional in your process to sit there and show, hey, Major League Soccer, we are serious, so we're serious about this kind of stuff. And so we'll see what's going on with all of that. And Michael, last word goes to you. Franco leaving could use that 500 spent on Hosechu, and we've talked about Emerson Hyndman too. So we'll see what happens when it comes to interest, finances, the Capology 101. Trust me, is just starting now that we have turned to 2023. So Capology 101 starts, I guess, now with Alan Franco heading, it looks like, for 4 years to Sao Paulo. Good piece of business for Atlanta United because it's 80%. They still keep 20% for sell-on. So it's a good piece of business for Atlanta United when this officially happens with Alan Franco and Sao Paulo. So, like I said, good piece of business for Atlanta United to end 2022 on to get you started for the January window in 2023. Training camp, folks report on the 6th, and training camp starts on Sunday. So Friday, players report for their physicals. Sunday, everything starts for Atlanta United and their training for the 2023 season. So thanks to all of y'all for hanging out, and we'll do it again tomorrow. Since it is the end of the show, played safe, everybody. Mucho platio. It means I get to do this, and we will do it again tomorrow. Enjoy your games. We'll see you Tuesday. If I could get the right one to see. I almost pushed the intro, and that would have been bad because we're not starting a show. We're ending the show, which means I get to do this.